Thanks, Dimitri. Thanks, Theo. Just a note quickly. I apologize. I'm going to have to leave at 8:30. The original stopping time is I have a commitment, but I'm delighted to be able to talk. My name is Richard Langstaff, and I run something called Cepal. Cepal was the first entity to receive one of the servicing license from the Bank of Greece. We're arguably the largest servicer. It's debatable, I suppose, but we're servicing just over $4.5 billion of NPLs right now. We service retail and small business loans, secured, which is mortgages, and unsecured. So and that 4.5 will not very shortly grow to 7. So we're the first, the largest servicer in the Greek market. So I'll talk to you a bit from the coalface of servicing, and also we service for both banks and investors. Investors who have bought portfolios, banks, we service for them as third parties. And the last thing I would add is I and my wife, who's sitting there in the back, Virginia, we've been out in Greece since 2013. We acquired our first NPL portfolios then, and so we've really lived through the experience. So I have a very simple presentation, and the NPL story is, I think, very well known. We have some great panelists here to talk about it. So I set myself the challenge of coming at it from a different angle. And we'll see if I succeeded or not. But it's a little bit experimental. Obviously, the NPL story is very familiar. Its NPL levels are very high in Greece. It's a bad thing. It's been the focus of constant news flow from, journalists, negotiations with multinational teams, banking analysts, social and consumer groups, institutional investors, politicians, academics, intellectuals, new laws, and so on. So, if I can, in those words, I'll refer to that as the NPL story of Greece. I'm not trying to make light of it, because we also know that ongoing NPL levels are a fundamental issue in Greece as an economy and as a society. It creates real burdens on individuals and companies, high social costs, high personal costs, and so it's a huge burden on those people. Secondly, it's a huge burden on the banks. The Greek banks have very high NPL levels. It keeps them from they need to be key drivers of economic growth. They can't do that if their top managers spend most of their time focusing on NPLs, how to deal with NPLs, how to deal with stress tests, how to deal with this, how to deal with that. So it's the banks. The banks need to be freed up to do their thing in a sense. And lastly, the NPLs are a fundamental block to economic recovery and growth in Greece. I mean, notwithstanding the high levels of NPLs, it's almost a miracle in some sense. I think that due to with some support from the multinational and the international world, the Greeks have managed, notwithstanding the handicaps like these NPLs, to really, I think, turn things around, and now things are headed for the positive. So, A, it's a tribute to the Greeks, but B, it's got to change. So how will the NPL problem change? We're not going to know. How do I go back? Left? Okay. Yeah. Oh, it doesn't seem to have gotten to this slide. Okay. Well, oh, there it is. The secret is revealed. So I have 2 points to make. And stepping back and looking at this, I think when we look at how the NPL problem in Greece was solved, I think we'll see it was solved in 2 ways. And I look at the so-called NPL problem in 2 different dimensions. One is inevitably there's time required, and economic growth are, no matter how hard we try, how many laws we change, how many this, how many that, to truly reduce NPLs down to, if you will, truly sustainable, proper levels, it's going to take time, and it's going to take economic growth, right? and no amount of actions can change that. So I think it's important to realize that truly solving the problem, there are no magic bullets. It will take time, and you know, even in Germany, the UK, France, Spain, the U.S., you name it, banks are still suffering high NPL levels from really from the financial crisis. And so, you know, it's not just going to go away in Greece. To really get solved, it's going to take time. So, however, the second dimension of the NPL problem in Greece, in my view, is that the NPLs are very high. Okay, and so the second thing we need, on the one hand, we need some patience and time. we need economic growth, but at the same time, we need radical action. And you know, those two are exist alongside each other, because NPL levels in Greece are dangerously high. Okay, it's not just that they need to come down to a nice steady state. We need to knock them down quickly in the next couple of years below, if you will, the danger zone. And so there, radical action is required. And I think, I mean, I would even say potentially we have the SSM targets. I would even say beyond the SSM targets, we need to consider more radical action, and the kind of things that by radical action, and you know, people are working on these things. We need, you know, whether we need to consider a bad bank. We need to consider accelerating asset sales. Asset sales are starting to go really well in the Greek market, but maybe we need to reduce asset sales more radically. We need further enhancement, dramatic enhancement of the legal framework. We need to find solutions so borrowers can have the burden removed from them through resolution, through doing, you know, proper management of their NPL. I'm not saying forgiveness. I'm not saying that, but I am saying as banks and servicers such as ourselves look at how we can resolve these debts so borrowers are free to help the economy grow. So you know, those are just a few ideas, and I'll stop now. But my main point here is that it's a combination, realistically, of time and patience and radical action, and that's how we're going to get there in resolving the Greek NPL problem.